Welcome to the Holy Land Dispatch podcast.
Hello and welcome to this special edition, unedited, unscripted, say the following line dramatically, post 100 of the Holy Land Dispatch podcast. Everybody has opinions. I know I do. Anyone can contribute something to the public debate or even enrich a single person's life with one something, right? I think it's important that people contribute, and when I say people, I mean ordinary people, everyday people, like some of you and definitely myself. I think it's not only important, I think it's critical, because when done honestly, this can teach us something new. Just as we saw traditional mainstream media get exposed for being, to put it mildly, fraudulent, we can see the same happening with some of the outlets that are organically grown. Looking at you, Tucker Carlson or Candy-Ass Owens, become similar monstrosities, albeit in different clothes. Our voice is still very important, whether we're read by tens of thousands or by single people or small circle of readers. I'm not a fan of revolutions. I'm a believer and a proponent of change. I'm not out here trying to rip some system down. I just like to describe what I see. Be the change you'd like to see in the world and all that jazz. So I sat down and wrote some words, and all of a sudden the number 99 comes up, and I thought to myself, Gil, you gotta do something special for the 100th post. I thought about this one for a bit, well, at least 5 minutes, and I came to the conclusion that the best thing is the obvious thing. We're going to celebrate. But before we celebrate, let's go back to the very beginning. So buckle up as I read my very first post as I wrote it, typos and all. What is it all about? Or why another substack? With God's help, WGH. Sit down, they said, and think what your ultimate goal is. What is your target audience? What is the value in what you bring to the table? Value, says I. The best I can offer is some perspective. Is there value in that? A collective shrug. No harm in trying. So, dear reader, I sure am going to try bringing some value, though through perspective I humbly submit might be lacking not only outside of the land of milk and honey, but even within it. Excuse me, but who are you exactly? Oh, that's right, apologies. I am Gil, and I am mostly a husband and a father of 4. A husband of 1, of course. I work in the technology field, and I lived in Canada, USA, and Mexico, but my home, both currently as well as permanently, is Israel. I am an author, as this shameless plug indicates, and as Walter Sobchak said,
Show more fucking shows.
So what can you expect? First, I hope to shed some light about the country itself, trying to lift the covers and observe its story and its place in history. Second, I'll do my honest best to map, or at least outline, the political landscape as you may not have known it, reading foreign papers and such. Third, I am Jewish, and I have a lot to say about that too. I hope you'd find my takes interesting. As I can say with a high amount of confidence, they are not necessarily the most common. Side topics you should definitely expect: literary posts, recommendations and reviews, original literary texts, TV-related posts, worldwide geopolitics in all its magnificence, lists and random thoughts. And who knows, perhaps I might even start talking on video. Hello. But first, I'd need my beauty sleep. I think that about wraps my introduction up, as I'm sure you'd get to know me better when you read all of my posts, like and share them, and engage. I did say typos, and engage in positive conversation. So here we are, 100 posts later. I made some statements and some promises, and when I made them, I fully intended to stick to them. Let's see how I measured those promises. Israel Deep Dives, Promises 1 and 2. I promised to lift the covers of Israel's story. I think I delivered, though there's a whole lot more to discuss. I did the State of Israel series back in March through early May, following what I felt was a relevant line of questions. How safe is the state of Israel with regards to external and domestic threats? What is the status of the economy? What are the threats to Israeli democracy? What is the social and political landscape? Other topics. What are the top 5 items that need addressing? For all of the above, I added, and what can we do about it? In my early post, Right and What's Left, I mapped out the political landscape, parties, leanings, and the power balance in the Knesset. In the cost of the boycott, we've talked about the boycott on Netanyahu by other Israeli political leaders that threatens to both paralyze significant and much-needed legislation as well as maintain and fuel a needless internal divide. I've talked about the problems with our judiciary system in a few posts. Most recent is the ongoing series titled The Hunt for Benjamin Netanyahu, and prior to that in Judiciary Reform and Cynical Projections, where I outlined the major revolution led by the left-leaning Supreme Court president, completely breaking the checks and balances in our democracy. I of course wrote quite a bit about October 7th. It was, is, and will be a pivotal event that reshapes not only the geopolitical and power structures in the Middle East, but most relevant to Israel, the way we think about security, diplomacy, industry and other aspects, including social ones. In many ways, Israel is a different country than it was before October 7th, 2023. The population shifted to the right, respective to their previous position, when it comes to prioritizing security. More and more people realize now that peace, or even what we call normalization with our neighbors, can only be achieved from a position of strength. I believe, or at least hope, that more people have woken up to the need to insist upon the truth. The truth that Israel need not apologize for its existence. The truth that there is no such thing as a Palestinian people, and as such, they do not need another country. They have plenty of options in the Middle East and Africa. Another theme is that Israel is facing internal challenges that must be dealt with. An imbalanced democratic system in which the unelected courts and clerks significantly outweigh the elected officials of the Knesset and indeed the government. Israel must go through a deep judiciary reform in order for the branches of government to be able to move things, significant things, to make the required progress. This progress is a must if we want to increase our independence, which I certainly believe we do. If we want our economy to continue to play a central role in the global field. If we want our society to be ready for hopefully significant immigration in coming years as well as facing additional challenges. We must also learn to play well with each other with agreed upon rules that apply the same to all. We cannot boycott each other at the expense of the future. I think I left quite a lot to be desired in terms of covering the story of Israel and its place in history. I touched on it mostly in the Be'er Tuvia massacre post and referred to it in other posts, but I feel like I owe you more content on that front. I'll get on it. Uncommon Jewish Takes, Promise number 3. The story of the Torah is a lifelong practice, and some say it takes multiple lifetimes. I did share some of the insights I've learned from really great rabbis as well as on my own. It is my favorite topic and I spend as much time as I can on learning. To write about it is a privilege which I take seriously. I write on things that I feel fully confident in my own understanding, while there are topics that are no less fascinating which I feel the need to deepen my knowledge of before I write about them with any kind of authority. The first of those was the post titled, "And to Jerusalem your city may you return." One cannot start anywhere more important than Jerusalem, which is the holiest and most central place to Jews, as well as the highest spiritual step one can pray to get to. I looked at some fundamental concepts we all think about, such as rights, in the post titled "Rights Are Wrong," and then in Virtue versus Measures, we talked about what humans perceive to be subjective truth, if such a thing exists, but are actually dependent on context. We talked about the tools Judaism provides us to protect ourselves from dangerous false utopic ideologies in Judaism is the anti-woke. In the laziness of anti-Semites, I've used an anti-Semitic troll's accusation on my substack to demonstrate how the holy book is used by stupid, wicked men to pervert the message of God. I wrote Who Chooses Who, in which I talked about sensitive issues like the term the chosen people, and how it is misunderstood by some non-Jews and even by some Jews. In Exodus every day, we examine the importance of remembering this apparent single event in Jewish history in our everyday life. We've talked about sacrifice versus victimhood, reflecting on the inevitability and absolute necessity of sacrifice in our life. This is a fundamental principle in Judaism and understood by good psychologists and sociologists alike. Common threads and themes I find in these posts include the love and necessity of truth. Not my truth or your truth, but absolute truth as it is known in the Bible by the name God. The truth is the unchanged, as in something that was true, is true, and independently of any circumstance will always be true. Take for example the commandment, "Thou shalt not murder." Murder was wrong, is wrong, and will always be wrong no matter what. Barbarian societies have accepted murder as a norm, but that did not change the fact that it was wrong. Utopian regimes have murdered millions in the name of some ideology. The fact remains, murder is wrong. Another aspect I hope comes through to you, as it does for me, is the relevancy of biblical lessons to our lives today. Being a slave, even if that manifests today as an addiction or full dependency on another human, is counterproductive and in most cases absolutely destructive to any person today. Prayer, or if you want to call it meditation, is a way to ground oneself and enable him to live in gratitude. As mentioned before, understanding sacrifice and learning to discern where one is needed versus when all you do is self-harm. This ties directly into the understanding of the concept of virtues and measures. In order to safeguard ourselves from dangerous false beliefs, we need to understand how to practice our human virtues. Israeli Jews, I believe, will benefit a lot from learning the Torah, which is the reason we are here. We can and should participate in the global playground, if you will, and contribute like we always do, but never forget our unbreakable bind to the Holy Book. People of other religions should not fear Jews. The Torah teaches us that we are all children of God, and that everyone has a role to play in reaching the inevitable goal, for which we are all here. I finish every episode of the podcast with God bless, because that is what God does. He blesses all of His people. As I mentioned in Who Chooses Who, God isn't a fan of some select team. God doesn't care only for a subset of people. God is perfection, and to think of him as less than that is not only blasphemous, it's a subversion of his word. So what about those side topics I mentioned? I certainly had plans to write about the following: literary posts, recommendations and reviews, original literary texts, TV-related posts, worldwide geopolitics in all its magnificence, lists and random thoughts. As it happened, the world being what it is and Israel being in the situation it's in, I did a lot more on worldwide geopolitical topics than the rest. We talked about wokeism in the aforementioned Judaism is the anti-woke. We tackled some DI idiocy on LinkedIn initiative in the post titled LinkedIn Presents Doublethink for Dummies. I touched upon the post-humanistic, read demonic anti-humanistic poison that is spewed by way too many idiots in the past few decades in my post Family Matter, which is based on 2 great podcast episodes that happened to go out in quick succession. I've dedicated some of my ire to those feeble-minded world leaders in Keir Starmer, Mark Carney, Emmanuel Macron, and the likes in the post 3 Blind Mice and others. In Sleepy Joe versus the Israeli government, I've talked about the disgusting interference in internal Israeli politics by the worst US administration ever, the Biden-Harris debacle, and how it supported a modern-day blood libel against Jews. I've expressed my disdain for some leftist TV hosts who made and are still making a mockery of themselves, looking at you, John Oliver, Jimmy Kimmel, and others. I've talked about Trump's administration, the way it's presented by said leftist media, and how ridiculous it is. See post, is Trump's USA the same as Hitler's Germany? I spoke about the isolationist branch of the American right and how some of their more extreme representatives miss the point as opposed to Trump. The post is titled simply about the isolationists. As you can probably sense by now, my leanings are somewhat conservative right in general. I would have liked to see us all conserve some liberalism, as honest and truth-seeking people would, instead of dangerous progressivism. The common threads are anti-woke, anti-DEI, pro-truth, and return to the fundamental moral codes given to us by God. I believe that the conservative right, with all of its flaws, is far closer than the left, which became radical and self-harming. I really wanted to dedicate a lot more space for literary posts, recommendations, and reviews, as well as original literary texts. I am a writer after all, a reader and an appreciator of storytelling. I did very little on this front. You have the review of Tad Williams' great book, The Dirty Streets of Heaven, and my musings on Douglas Adams's masterpiece, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I also started diving into the impact of AI on art in my post called Artificial. I'd like to pledge that I'll improve on that front, but I don't want to make empty threats. I'll do my best to do better. TV-related posts. Well, I wrote about the first show that blew my mind in Homicide, Life on the Street. I wrote about The Sopranos in a reaction post I dubbed Reviewing the Review of The Soprano. Most recently, I've written about The Hack and reflected on Turning Point USA and the Daily Wire's collaborative called Identity Crisis. I wrote a few posts about one of my all-time favorite TV show, Doctor Who. I have tons more to say about the show, and here's a spoiler for you. I'm working on refining a format for a dedicated podcast to the series. You will hear about this whether you want to or not. Like the case is with the literary pieces, There was and still is an ocean of words to add on this, but I will do my best to speak more about it. Overall, when I looked at what I wrote versus what I aimed to write, I'd say I was not too far. The focus was placed where things burned a bit hotter, and of course you, dear listeners, played a role in that too. Comments, shares, and interactions helped me identify the topics and the type of content that you seem to prefer. I'm not trying to pander, and I've had quite a few violent, crazy anti-Semitic comments that I removed to prove the point. I do, however, want to keep the conversation going, so yes, I take your comments to heart and appreciate them very much. So, 100 posts in. That's roughly 150,000 words. A good-sized novel. I turned to podcast mode for the most part and I am enjoying this format. I think I'll stick around for a while. Since I can't really give myself awards, here are some non-awards or some badges to celebrate this milestone.
You want badges, mother bitch?
The most difficult post to write, which was also the most satisfying to complete, titled "You're Not a Bug, You're a Feature." Trying to discuss fundamentals of Judaism in a brief column is challenging. It's borderline pretentious to begin with. Who am I to discuss this? But it feels very important to know who we are and why we are here. In order to discuss this, one needs to lay down some foundations on which explanations can make sense. So there's that. And it shouldn't be too long and convoluted, as it would become boring, and the whole point is to get through to people. I have a feeling that I did okay despite the challenges. You be the judge. The post that wrote itself. Imagine all the people. Well, the song I used to love until I finally understood the many dangers emanating from its lyrics. I remember writing the whole piece in one session, including light editing. The most fun research. Family Matters. Well, first it involved listening to Jordan Peterson, which I can do all day. Then it also included listening to Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Foster, which I can also do all day. To top it off, they had two magnificent guests who were not only interesting but had something to teach us. I clearly remember sitting, having listened to those two episodes and musing on how they applied to my life through the years. Not in a severe judgment, but in real contemplation. A few searches on the internet later, I've sat down to write with enthusiasm. The most unexpected post. The laziness of anti-Semites. I didn't plan to write it, but some trolls jumped on one of my posts with anti-Semitic venom. I didn't lose sleep over these long-blocked idiots, but their arguments reminded me of the many ways in which evil people, not civil, try to manipulate and use the word of God in an ungodly way. I can't think of a more blasphemous thing. The Did It Land badge. The extermination of Amalek. I wrote this among online debates between two groups of people, misguided and evil anti-Semites and misguided, gullible Jews, both not understanding what the extermination of Amalek means. To this day, I'm not sure whether I stuck the landing with this one. Again, you be the judge. The Should I Have badge? Any post mentioning devious people. On the one hand, I felt obliged to point them out. On the other, am I propping them up simply by referring to them? I don't know. You tell me. This really should have been a serious badge. Besides the Doctor Who related ones, which will someday soon become a podcast, I feel like I should have made more with the biblical celebs post. Who knows? There's still time. The one that surprised me. The Be'er Tuvia massacre. A comment on YouTube demonstrated for me that I wasn't alone in not knowing about this event before. There are things that get no PR, I guess. I've been blessed to have interacted with you, the listeners, and other writers. Your comments have enlightened me, and many resonated with me too. I truly appreciated every time you clicked like or restack or left your comment under my posts. People like Dumisani Washington, who also writes excellent posts on his substack, in addition to the holy work he does out in the real world. People like E.E. Negron, Emerald, I really hope I pronounced it properly, who should write more often. Talented folks like Dave Bender and Robert Goldman, EKB, Elise Ronan, again I hope I pronounced it properly, Miss MU, Mr. Allah, and so many others I didn't mention, mostly for pacing purposes. You are all awesome.
Awesome, dude. You're awesome, awesome, awesome.
I do enjoy seeing that notification light with everyone's insights. Substack, for the most part, is still a platform that respects long-form discussions, and thank God for that, because I don't necessarily know when to shut up. Well, folks, here's a toast for 100 more. Until then, please consider subscribing in case you haven't yet, pledging via Ko-fi, as Substack doesn't process payments in Israel, commenting, liking, sharing, as all of that helps me reach more people. Thanks for being a part of the journey so far, and as always, thank you for joining the Holy Land Dispatch podcast. God bless.